Our next presenter is has an extensive experience in building mission-critical, agile, and high-performance systems in multiple industry verticals, including banking, telco, transportation, and manufacturing, with some of the world's most complex enterprises. Now, in his current job, he works closely with CIOs, CTOs, and chief architects, helping them on real-time, event-driven technology transformation journeys. Now, speaking on the topic of creating a better customer experience with Enterprise IoT, please welcome Mr. Sumeet Puri, Chief Technology Solutions Officer for Solace. Sumeet, the stage is all yours.
Thanks, Alan. And thanks, everybody. Looking forward to spending the next few minutes with you. And if any of you are wondering, my profile picture is very different from my look today. This is for November for a charity. And again, that's a sacrifice. So yeah, I'll get started here. It was great to listen to Oliver and talking about the possibilities of IoT, talking about what IoT is already doing for us, what it can do. My job is to now take you into the how from the what and the possibilities one level further. So this is going to be a slightly technical session, but if there are any questions, more than welcome on the chat or later as well. So I work for Solace. I'm the Chief Technology and Solutions Officer here, and we do a bunch of things, including IoT projects and implementations, but we essentially do data movement and event streaming, which I'll explain as we go. But again, the purpose of the talk is the possibility of IoT, right? So if we take a step back, right, IoT is an important technology trend, but why bother, right? So a lot of businesses are changing. If you see businesses such as HP, or I'm just picking HP as an example, this is all public information. HP's business has changed from transactional, where they used to sell printers and machines and all, to contractual, where now they are selling printouts, right? So an important change in business. What does that change mean to technology? And you could have similar changes in your businesses. So this simple thing means that they have to have connected printers. Their supply chain has to become real time, because they never want a printer to run dry. So if it is low on toner, that needs to be supplied. The manufacturing accordingly takes a cue from that. So digital factory and such initiatives would be important for such a business. And whether it's an HP, whether it's a Unilever, whether it's a, like, pick your favorite large company, they would be all facing similar challenges. Similarly, whether it's a telco or a bank, similar challenges. The core business is becoming real time, because it is being disrupted. The customer wants better experience, right? So how do you change your IT to actually tackle these problems? Your IT, and as we'll see, was built for a very different set of requirements, right? The customer experience is different. Some of the challenges of these transforming businesses are here. So for example, if you're maintaining lifts, or if you're maintaining any sort of machinery, how do you have your technicians get just-in-time service requests? So let's say if a technician is serving a lift in a building and there's another building next door which broke down, how do you make sure that the technician is able to go and service the machine next door, rather than waiting for a week to come back? Or you may have quality information. So if you have multiple factories in which different raw materials or different assemblies are being produced for your end product, how do you correlate them? So how do you correlate the screen from the chassis, from the CPU, let's say, if you're a smartphone or an electronics manufacturer, and do just-in-time warehousing? So again, the problem sets are a lot, where you want end-to-end integration of data, you want data to flow, and a lot of sensors, from factories to point of sale systems to, as Oliver also mentioned, this super sensor that we all have are in our hands, called the mobile phone, right? So lots of examples, but the general theme that we see here is that to unlock the value of your data, you need to set it in motion, Right? So IoT as a start has been capture, 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 and analyze. But what about bidirectional communication? How do you set your data in motion as event streams so that as this information is flowing, you can do interesting things with it, right? So also, a pretty important thing to understand is that the value of data diminishes over time, right? So if you see this chart, for you to take time critical decisions, that is where you will get the maximum impact of your data the closer you're taking a decision to the origination of the data. So if you see here on the x-axis, we have time. On the y-axis, the value of data. This is a Gartner picture. A lot of analysts are saying the same thing, that as your data gets more and more stale, you go from predictive to reactive to historical. So can we get access to our data in real time, whether it is sensor data, whether it is customer data, whether it is a payment, any kind of information, right? So a lot of these different concepts, and I'm going to put them all together. If you see IoT, on one hand, our data is increasing. Why is it increasing? Because the number of devices, the number of applications are exponentially increasing, right? So from connected vehicles to industrial IoT to smart cities, telcos rolling out their own 5G or MEC platforms, again, the super sensor, as in the mobile phone, all of these systems are basically exploding as they should. And then from all of these devices, how do you make sense of them? We can say that they are deployed either in data centers, the core systems which process this data. There are some big data analytics. As we go closer to the devices, there are cloud components where you'll have business logic deployed, all the way up to the fog layer where you'll have IoT devices and edge computing, etc., deployed. Right. So that's the technical piece of this puzzle. But if we see how IoT is being implemented, and we've seen this in a few projects, when it starts, quite a few customers are saying that, okay, I want to do IoT. I'll do a smart factory solution there. I'll do a fleet management solution there. I'll do baggage trolley tracking somewhere here. I'll do a telco platform. So there are many silos that tend to get generated. But if you are the CEO or the CIO of your organization or the chief architect, nobody likes silos, right? So I want my customer data to be correlated with my payments data, to be correlated with the device data that is coming in. So whatever be your business, your warehouse needs to know where your truck is. So your warehousing IoT system and your fleet management IoT system need to be talking, right? So you can't really afford to have your information siloed. So taking a step back, IoT in particular is totally event driven. Right? So let's think about this concept called event. Any location update, any start stop action, any digital factory infrastructure, anything that is happening from an IoT device or a mobile device, after all, is an event. For that matter, even a new payment is an event, right? So when you trigger a new payment, an event happened. So if all of these systems are event driven, we need to prevent those silos. But does your integration look like this? This is a normal evolution of most integrations, and we don't want them to look like this. We want them to be much more event driven, that an event happened and there are a few pieces of business logic. It could be analytics, it could be validations, it could be an action command and control system which need to be triggered in real time, right? So how do we solve that problem? Why is it not obvious? Because our technology was built for a very different era, right? Our technology was built for static data, living in databases, living in file systems, and not dynamic data. Our technology was built for batch and polling and not events and streaming. And why? Because again, disks used to be faster than network. Now it's the other way around. Network is faster than disk. So the underlying physics have changed, and the upstream technologies of event streaming have to change from these request reply poll oriented systems to a very publish subscribe mechanism, such that all of these older ways which used to degrade customer experience with creating friction, they have to make way for a very event-driven mechanism, right? So if you look at supply chain as an example, you can see here there are a bunch of business drivers. So cost should come down, customer experience should improve, and agility should become better, right? That's what a digital supply chain is aiming for from IoT and even otherwise. So how do you actually make it happen? This is an example view of supply chain. Many providers would have a similar view. This is SAP's view. You see lots and lots of devices getting connected, and from planning to logistics, operations, eventually it is all centered around customer experience. How do we get these systems from sensor to the core systems connected, right? So the answer to that, in our opinion, is what we call an event mesh, right? So you have all of these various static and sale information from a batch-based integration. Can we evolve them into a service-oriented architecture all the way up to an event-driven architecture such that you have events streaming in real time, you have a digital supply chain twin, so whether it's warehousing or location or inventory, any information from IoT or from devices or from core systems is sent into our digital supply chain channel in real time. So looking at it another way, all of your steps in a supply chain, from sourcing, connected mines, from manufacturing, digital factory, logistics, ocean tracking, rail tracking, road tracking, retail, connected retail stores, connected point of sale systems, customer apps, all of these various steps that we see in a supply chain, and you can imagine this for banking, you can imagine this for telco, all of these are getting IoT enabled. The sensors are producing information, applications are consuming information, reacting to that. So can we set this information from sensors, from applications, streaming as events in real time with granular data so that they are dynamic and they are synchronized, and we get these business outcomes as a result, right? So that's how you start getting an impact from IoT. And the answer to that is you basically create what we call an event mesh. So there's devices on one hand, there's applications on the other, some on-premise, some on the cloud. The infrastructure that you get these events to stream is basically a robust, reliable event streaming platform. And to give you the architecture, what that would look like is you get your core systems connected, your SAPs, your mainframes, your legacy systems, your distributed apps. You get their data in motion through connectors and adapters through this publish, subscribe, guaranteed delivery, secure fabric. So again, imagine those silos that we talked about. No more silos here. Your IoT devices are also connected to this mesh, which is a series of these brokers. That is what my company Solace provides. You have APIs talking directly to them. You have connected places talking directly to them. And as you extend this mesh across clouds, across on-premise, you publish wherever, you subscribe wherever, your partners, your dealers, your line of business teams also are able to just consume and produce events. So imagine there is this stream of data that is always flowing as events, and you can just subscribe to it, and you can just publish to it. Your machine learning applications, your customer experience applications, business logic applications can all do meaningful things with those events. Okay, so as I said, uh, as you get these events streaming, there's also the need of governance. So how do you know what is flowing? How do you know whether the shipping location events have been onboarded, or is it just the payment events? So for that, you need an event management infrastructure. And this picture, this centerpiece in green, is what Solace provides, right? So we connect IoT devices to core applications, to legacy applications, whether they are on-premise or modern applications, whether they are in the cloud, and do enterprise messaging, enterprise event streaming, and end-to-end connectivity. So it is foundational as you build your IoT and enterprise solutions, and we do it using open standards. So for example, on the edge, you'll have all of these protocols from PLCs to Modbus to OPC UA. On the core, you'll have your enterprise applications, your SAPs, your Salesforce, etc. And then your OT world needs to talk to your IT world through protocols such as MQTT and AMQP, or also REST, and that is what Solace makes happen. Okay, so just I haven't talked much about Solace, but who we are. We're a Canadian company. We have offices all around Asia Pacific as well, and these are some of our customers. For example, we connect millions of vehicles for Mercedes. So we are their connected car backbone, as an example. SAP uses us as their core IoT and enterprise messaging backbone. 50% of our business is banks. So from HSBC to Standard Chartered to Citibank, to like all of these banks are our customers, stock exchanges as well. So we've basically taken the highest throughput, very reliable architecture from banking, which is very real time, and applied it to IoT, applied it to digital factory, applied it to digital supply chain and connected car. And by the way, for the techies out there, Solace is free. You can go and download it. It's free for production. You can optionally buy support. That is how we make our money, but you don't have to. If you're a startup, you can just go and use Solace, and life will be easier. So just to summarize, just to conclude, looking at it from an IoT perspective and also from an enterprise perspective, right? So the whole notion of the event mesh and the event portal. So you have core systems. Again, no IoT on this picture yet. You have core systems such as your ERP, you have cloud systems, and then these applications all need to talk to each other. And you may use various API platforms, various iPaaS platforms. But how do you do this guaranteed delivery end-to-end capability of event streaming? How do you actually get EDI informations? And then also the topic of the day, how do you get your retail stores connected, your factories connected? Not in a point-to-point manner, not for every application to talk to every application, but putting these as event streams, so that if a factory pushes its machine information, its assembly line information, and your ERP system pushes production orders, your data lake can go and correlate them, or your event streams here can go and correlate them and say that, okay, if that assembly line is facing a problem, this production order and this material is getting impacted. The same thing you can redraw this picture for a bank where these retail stores could be ATMs, and your ATM transactions could be correlated with your core banking systems, all in real time as streams. To a telco, this is how your 5G MEC could look like, that each of your edge nodes, they need to be connected with a mesh. So if you have a MEC at the retail store, factory store, even smart lamppost, you have the ability of edge computing by publishing and subscribing through this node of the mesh. Again, guaranteed delivery pub sub, but then also the ability to have the other nodes connected all into this event mesh, right? And how do you govern it? You basically govern it so Solace provides tooling for this. We have the event portal using which you can design these IoT event flows or any other event flows. You can also do discovery. You can see what is flowing onto the event mesh. You can see the event catalog so that your future applications can see that, okay, I'm interested in a location event and capture it. So bringing it all together, some takeaways, and I can keep going on with the case studies one after the other, but what we've covered, and if there are any questions, fire them away. For IoT and modern enterprises to scale, you need to become event driven. Why? because capture and process later is not an option. If you want your customer experience to become better, to become real time, you have to have an event streaming mechanism, not just APIs. APIs have to become event driven, not just service oriented architectures or big data platforms. You have to have these systems producing and consuming event streams in real time. And how do you do it? An event mesh, whether you choose a Solace event mesh, I hope you choose Solace because that's the best, but you need an event mesh strategy where that becomes your digital nervous system of the modern enterprise. So your IoT devices and your applications are all communicating over that event mesh. The event portal, the screenshots that you saw are going to be useful for visualizing, for discovery, for governance of all of those events. And again, work for Solace, so have to put those lines. Solace does solve these problems. We are the IoT integration guys. We can connect millions of devices at millions of messages per second, and it's free for production. So with that, thanks for your time, and I hand it over to you, Alan.